Welcome to the My Opinion Podcast, a show that focuses on leadership, life, and love to empower women around the world to be the best versions of themselves. The My Opinion Podcast is a weekly show with Maya's Motivation Monday, focusing on leadership topics for women, and special edition episodes that feature guest interviews and current events. Now, all in her opinion, here is your host, Maya Roffler.
Hi guys, welcome back to My Opinion. This is another episode of Maya's Motivation Monday to kick you guys off to a great start to your week. Today I'm going to be talking about confidence and the importance of confidence in a leader. I touched on this in other podcasts, and it always comes up because being confident as a leader is super important. I talked about it as one of the 3 pillars right now in being a really good leader in my leadership check-in the other week. And so I really wanted to deep dive on this a little bit and talk about why being confident as a leader is so important. And then also talk about some of the confusion that happens with the word confident and confidence. So let's just dive in and talk about what confidence means in my opinion. So what does it mean to be confident or to be a confident leader? There's a couple components to that, but the first thing I think about in a confident leader is they are truly, and this is so important right now, they are truly not afraid to fail. So you may stop and think, okay, well, aren't we all afraid to fail at some capacity? Even the greatest leaders of all time have fears and doubts, and yes, that's absolutely true. But when you're a confident leader, you are not afraid to charge forward and to take a risk. And taking a risk and moving forward and trial and error and taking that risk in something right now, especially now, is so important. And it really will cut between who is going to survive the times, COVID, and then all of, the political things that are happening right now too. Of course, the racism that's going on right now and has always been going on. And this is all falling to leaders and how they are reacting to it. And if you are afraid to fail, you will be paralyzed. So you won't be able to make decisions. So people who are afraid to fail find themselves paralyzed, like I just said, so they're not able to take a risk. So confident leaders are able to take risks, calculated risks, but they're not afraid to do it. And then when they do fail, confident leaders accept it, own it, and learn from it. So when you look at yourself as a leader, or if you're listening to this to learn more about the leadership that you have in your company or that you're following or that you are thinking about following, look at the leadership, or look within yourself, or look at yourself as a leader and think about the risks that you take or the risks that you have not taken or you're not willing to take. Is it because you're afraid to fail? Why are you afraid to fail? Go back through some of the steps I've talked about on some of my other podcasts and really think through that. What's holding you back? And then when you have failed, are you then paralyzed again? I call it the paralysis effect of leadership, which is another podcast, which I say often too. But why does that hold you back when you fail? You learn more from failure than you do from a great win or success. And we all see those posts every single day, those motivational posts. But you really, truly do. And this is a time when we are really recreating ourselves and learning so much. So we have to, as leaders, be confident and know that if we're willing to try something and it fails, we'll learn from it. If we win, it's a win-win right now for us. It truly is. So that is one of the components of a confident leader. You're not afraid to fail because you are going to, 1, take the risk and be respected for it, and 2, you're not afraid to learn from it. And you're probably going to win big time from the failure. The first risk you take, you're probably not going to win, and you have to be okay with that. The next component to a truly confident, I think these are components to a confident person in general too, but you are open. You're an open person. If you are a confident leader and person, in my opinion, you're open, meaning you're open to criticism. Leaders are criticized all the time. It doesn't matter what field you're in. It doesn't matter who you're leading. It doesn't matter if you're leading the country, if you're leading a huge corporation, if you're leading a small team. You will always be criticized. Every single thing that you do will be criticized. But are you open to the criticism? At the end of the day, you have to choose what is right for your team, for your brand, for your company, for your nation, for your city, for your, like our mayor right now, Keisha. She's here in Atlanta, as you guys know, and listen to me, I'm here in Atlanta. She's criticized one way or the other, whether she's doing a good job or not, making good decisions. I personally think she's doing a good job. So we have to make those decisions, but we also have to be open to criticism. Good leaders, confident leaders, are open to the criticism, because if you're closed off to the criticism and you're not listening, you're never growing. And a confident leader is open to growth and open to change. And if you aren't able to listen to that criticism, you're not able to grow, and you're not able to adapt, and you're not able to build your team, and you're not able to build yourself up. And there's a difference between people tearing you down and there's false criticism. That's a whole other thing. But when people give you constructive criticism and they're speaking from the heart and speaking from a logical standpoint, and there's actual value coming from the other person or from your team or from a group, and you're not listening, you're not a confident leader. There's insecurities, there's arrogance, which we're going to talk about. That's not the definition of confidence or a confident person or leader. A confident leader is agile. And this is a time to be agile and practice this more than ever. And what I mean by agile, a lot of us know this term in a couple capacities, but we have to be able to pivot and change so quickly now in the world that we're living in. Obviously, when COVID hit, that was something that none of us had ever been through. Now it kind of feels like every day is a new day, and we're facing new challenges as every day starts, and we don't know what can be thrown at us. So being agile and adaptable and being open to change proves your confidence. So you wake up every morning, or you go to bed every night, right, preparing yourself, and you wake up in the morning prepared to go into the day not knowing what might happen. So you're braving the unknown, but you're agile enough with yourself in a leadership role, and you're confident enough that you can handle that. And you're confident enough that you can lead your team, and you can pivot that quickly, and your team trusts you enough to pivot and move. That's being agile. Because if you can't move your team, regardless of what industry you are in, if you can't move quickly in this environment that we're in right now, you're not going to make it. And if your team's not going to follow you quickly, this is where it's regardless of industry on this topic or conversation right now. I can get really granular with each one of you because everyone is going to be different. If you're in healthcare versus someone in retail, or, manufacturing versus someone who owns their own coaching business, it's all going to be different in how you pivot. But if your team's not behind you and they are not believing in you and they don't feel like you're confident in the next move, the next plan, you can't be as agile and you can't be ready to move with whatever is happening around you. So being confident also builds the trust from your team. If you think about it yourself, who are the leaders that you follow? Who are the people that you really just aspire to be, inspire you? The people that you respect the most, they're confident. They understand these specific things that I'm talking about, and you want to follow that because it feels good. It might not always feel safe, but they're inspirational and you want to follow them because you identify with them. That's your tribe. You want to follow that for a reason. So being able to be an agile leader, you want to make sure you have the trust from your team, but you also have to have that confidence in yourself. And it also goes back to not being afraid to fail, because you will fail. It's how you learn from it. And you have to be able to take that risk and to be agile and move quickly. So your team has to be very tight-knit to be able to do that, which is my point of being agile. Those are really the key components right now of being confident. But the core of being confident is trusting yourself, trusting your gut. This is your business or your team or your division, whatever you're leading, whatever you aspire to lead, even if it's just yourself or your business that you're leading, and there's people that are paying to work with you, you're still leading those people. Your gut is such a huge resource, and you have to trust it, and that's a part of your confidence as well. And so I always throw that in there as a part of your confidence. And when we ignore our guts, we're ignoring our true self and our confidence. And when something doesn't feel right, we need to check in with that, because we have people following us, trusting us, but we need to check in with ourselves and then also check in with our team, because again, we need to keep them tightly knit in with us, trusting us so we can be agile. We can be open to their criticism so that trust remains. And then also we can take those risks. We can move forward and not be afraid to fail, because when we do, we learn from it as leaders, and we can explain to our team why we did this, why we took the risk. When we fail, we are humbled enough, because we're confident enough to explain why we failed, what we've learned from it, and how we can be agile enough to move forward. That is a confident leader. Now, a key thing with confidence is the confusion of confidence, because a lot of leaders think confidence is, yes, of course it's important, but some people confuse confidence and arrogance. And it's easy to confuse. Very easy to confuse when you're first analyzing it, or you're first seeing it, or when you first engage with these kinds of people. Arrogant people are not open to criticism. They live in a box. They don't want to hear what their team has to say. They're going to do things because they've always been done this way. Cue the nails on the chalkboard, because that is one of my least favorite phrases in the entire world. I think you guys know that I am all about innovation and changing things and making sure things are always propelling forward. We're moving with the times. They are afraid to fail. Arrogant people are. They're always right. They're never wrong. They're basically the opposite of confident people. But what happens with them is they build up such a wall, and they're not vulnerable, because confident people are vulnerable. They're not afraid to be vulnerable because they're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to take a risk. But arrogant people build up a wall, and they come off very strong, and they know it all. They're know-it-alls. But they don't know it all. Confident people encompass the traits that I have just listed. And sometimes when we encounter these arrogant people, at first we'll go, gosh, they have so much confidence. We confuse that so much, especially I feel in our American culture. I truly feel in our American culture, we confuse that. We think being arrogant and full of ourselves, like that's a really good thing. And I think it is negative. I think being confident is so important and so positive, and it is a positive thing in leadership, because you can be humbled and also still be strong and lead the charge and know when you have made a mistake or you're falling forward, or you just can't. You have to be open as a leader to be an impactful leader. The confusion between arrogance and confidence, I've seen it happen so many times, and I'm completely guilty of it. I have thought leaders were super strong in my early 20s because they were arrogant assholes. And it's very confusing, but they're very closed off, and it's misleading, and it is a shield that they put up so that you are intimidated as their follower, or as someone who's supposed to be reporting to them, or whoever you are in the hierarchy. But I tell you this as a piece of advice, whether you are the arrogant leader listening to this, or you are someone who's worked for an arrogant leader, or you are working for an arrogant leader. They are terrified within inside of themselves. They are terrified to take risks. They are terrified to fail. They are talking over you and not listening to you for a reason. They are trying to believe their own bullshit. They are not agile. They want to do things like they've always done them because it's safe. But the problem with that is it's not safe. The world is moving so fast right now. And if you don't keep up with it, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be left behind in a puddle of your own arrogance. So it is so important to be a confident leader, because confidence actually means that you have a humbleness about you, and you are willing to take risks. You are not afraid to fail. Doesn't mean you don't get afraid, but you're not afraid to fail, and you're open. You're going to listen to your team. You're agile. You've got the trust of your team, so you can move, and we can move through these times with complete confidence, and you'll make it out on the other side. And that's why being a confident leader is so important. I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Maya's Motivation Monday. I'll see you back next week.
Thank you so much for listening to the My Opinion Podcast. You can catch up on past episodes on the My Opinion Podcast website at www.myopinionpodcast.com, as well as read the My Opinion blog and contact Maya directly with your questions. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at My Opinion Podcast and Maya Roffler. We'll see you back here next week.